Hello, I am D. Balnarasimha, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Government Degree College, Ramanapet. Today, in this video lecture, I am going to discuss about photochemistry. Photochemistry is one of the important chapter for graduate students. Okay, today in this video lecture, I am going to discuss the basic concepts of photochemistry and photochemical laws of photochemistry and what is quantum efficiency and a few examples, solid examples of on solid examples on laws of photochemistry and quantum efficiency. Okay, right. So what is photochemistry? Photochemistry is a branch of science which deals with chemical reactions caused by absorption of radiation whose wavelengths lie in the visible and ultraviolet region, that is 2000 angstroms to 8000 angstroms. The region between this wavelength is considered as a visible and ultraviolet region. So the photochemistry is a branch of chemistry which deals with chemical reactions caused by absorption of radiation whose wavelength between 2000 to 8000 angstroms. Okay, this is called photochemistry. Okay, so such reactions are called as photochemical reactions. So a photon being the primary unit of radiation, photochemical reactions involve the absorption of photons. Okay, the reactions which can be brought about by exposure to such radiations include combination, oxidation, reduction, decomposition and hydrolysis by exposure to such radiations. Okay, hydrolysis, polymerization, etc. Okay, ordinary reactions are generally referred to as thermal reactions and are usually accompanied by decrease in free energy. For thermal reactions, free energy is negative for spontaneous reactions. So for thermal reactions, they are to occur if they are the reaction. For thermal reactions, delta G is negative for spontaneous reactions. Okay, for photochemical reactions, there may be delta G positive even for those photochemical reactions which are having their free energy in positive values, though the reactions can occur. Okay, the reaction can take place. Okay, so for thermal reactions, they are usually accompanied by decrease in free energy. Okay, so but it has been noted that certain photochemical reactions are accompanied by increase in free energy. Increase in free energy means delta G is positive. Okay, for photochemical reactions, even they are having free energies positive values, the change in free energies are having positive values, they can occur, the reactions can take place. Okay, in thermal reactions, molecules of reactants undergo chemical reaction if they acquire activation energy by collision. So for thermal reactions, the reaction to take place, the reaction to occur, the molecules have to collide. Even those colliding molecules must have that activation energy, then and there only the reaction will take place, the products will be formed. So on the other hand, photochemical reactions depend on an outside source for energy reaction. So for thermal reactions, it has to acquire energy within itself. Okay, so for photochemical reactions, the energy is supplied from the outside. So the absorption of radiation is always quantized for photochemical reactions. A quantum of energy which is observed is called a photon, and its value depends upon the frequency of radiation according to the equation. Quantum energy E is equal to h nu. Okay, so this depends upon, here h is Planck constant, so it is constant. Nu is equal to c by lambda. C is the velocity of light, so it depends upon the frequency or wavelength of the light which it absorbs. Okay, so the absorption of radiation is always quantized. A quantum of energy which is observed is called a photon, and its value depends upon the frequency of radiation according to the equation E is equal to h nu. Okay, here h is Planck constant and c is the velocity of light, lambda is the wavelength of the radiation. Okay, next the main differences between photochemical reactions and thermochemical reactions. First one, photochemical reaction. First point, these reactions involve the absorption of photons of light. Okay, for thermal reactions, these reactions involve the evolution or absorption of heat. Okay, the presence for photochemical reactions, the presence of light is an essential requirement for the reaction to take place. The presence of light is not necessary for the reaction to take place. For the thermochemical reactions, the presence of light is not required or necessary. Okay, they may require, may not require. Whereas in case of photochemical reactions, temperature has no significant effect on the rate of photochemical reaction, but the intensity of light has a marked effect on the rate of photochemical reaction. So the temperature has no significant effect on the rate of photochemical reaction. Okay, only the intensity of the light has a marked effect on the rate of the photochemical reaction. So temperature doesn't have any significant effect on the photochemical reactions. Whereas in case of thermochemical reactions, the temperature has significant effect. So temperature plays a key role for thermochemical reactions. Whereas in case of photochemical reactions, the free energy change of photochemical reaction is not negative in all cases. For example, in the synthesis of carbohydrates by plants and decomposition of HCl into H2 and Cl2, delta G is positive, but the reactions are spontaneous. So for free energy change of a thermochemical reaction is always negative. So for thermochemical reactions, delta G value must be negative. That means free energy should be decreased for a spontaneous reaction in the case of thermochemical reactions. Okay, whereas in case of photochemical reaction, there is no need of negative value of delta G. So even though some chemical reactions which I have mentioned here, although they are having positive delta G values, they are spontaneous reactions. And photochemical reactions, the required activation energy is gained through the absorption of quanta of visible or UV light. So the activation energy, okay, required activation energy is gained by the absorption of the light in case of photochemical reactions. Whereas in case of thermochemical reactions, the required activation energy is provided by intermolecular collisions are supplied in the form of heat. Okay, the activation energy has to be supplied through in the form of heat, or it has to be supplied within by colliding the molecules. Okay, so and another point is photochemical reactions, only a single selected species can be promoted to an excited state and is independent of the other species present in the reaction. So in photochemical reactions, only one species can be selected and it can be excited, and whereas in case of thermochemical reaction, there is no such type of selectivity. Okay, here in these reactions, that is thermochemical reactions, okay, the absorption of heat increases the energies of all the molecules and there is no selectivity. There is no selectivity for thermochemical reactions. So if we supply heat, then the whole molecules, okay, the whole reactants will be excited in case of thermochemical reactions. Whereas in case of photochemical reactions, only a single selected species can be promoted to an excited state and it is independent of the other species present in the reaction. These are the basic differences between photochemical reactions and thermochemical reactions. Okay, next one is there are photo processes. Okay, absorption of a photon of light may raise a molecule to an excited electronic state, which essentially involves the promotion of an electron from bonding molecular orbital to an antibonding molecular orbital. In the excited state, the atom or the molecule is more likely to undergo a chemical reaction in the ground state. In the excited state, the atom or the molecule is more likely to undergo a chemical reaction in the ground state. So, coming to the photo processes are mainly two types. Okay, photophysical processes and photochemical processes. This photophysical processes can be explained by Jablonski diagram. Okay, which will it is a Jablonski diagram is one of the very important concept in photochemistry. Okay, so first one, photophysical processes. Coming to the point, photophysical processes. These are the processes in which a substance absorbs light without undergoing any chemical change. That's why it is called as physical process, not a chemical process. Okay, in this process, a substance absorbs light without undergoing any chemical change. Depending upon the nature of the absorbed light and the manner in which it is emitted, photophysical processes are of three types. First one is, if the observed light is sufficiently energetic, then the electrons jump to the other orbits after getting excited, or may even leave the atom completely. So, if the energy is enough or observed light is sufficiently energetic, then the electrons will jump to the other orbits or may even leave the atom completely. Okay, just like photoelectric effect. If the observed light, second point is, if the observed light is emitted instantaneously, the process is called fluorescence. In fluorescence, the excited electron comes to the ground state, that is a singlet excited state to singlet ground state by emitting radiation, by releasing energy in the form of radiation, that is fluorescence. Okay, so if the observed light is emitted instantaneously, the process is called fluorescence. And the third point is, if the observed light is emitted after some time lag, the process is called phosphorescence. In the phosphorescence, the excited molecule, okay, the excited molecule or electron comes to the ground state from triplet state to singlet state by emitting radiation. Okay, the excited electron in the molecule, okay, comes to the, so it is a intersystem crossing like T1 to S0 in the form of radiation. It emits radiation, that is phosphorescence. These all are fluorescence, phosphorescence, okay, photophysical, photoelectric effect, all are physical processes, not chemical processes. And second point, photo process is photochemical process. In this process, here the subheading itself, okay, the term itself saying that these are chemical reactions. Okay, if the absorption of light leads to chemical reaction, then this process is called as photochemical process. Photochemical reactions, okay, these are the processes in which a substance absorbs light and undergoes a chemical change. These are called as photochemical processes. These are examples: in the presence of light, hydrogen and chlorine gases react to form hydrochloride gas, and it is photosynthesis which takes place in the leaves of plants. Okay, these are photochemical processes. Here carbon dioxide and water are being converted into glucose and oxygen. These are chemical processes. Okay, photo processes are two types. If the observed light is emitted, okay, it excites the electron, and it is called physical processes. If the observed light brings, if it brings chemical change, it is called as photochemical process. Okay, right. And next thing is laws of photochemistry. There are two sorry, basically there are two laws of photochemistry. These are laws governing photochemical reactions. Okay, all photochemical reactions are governed by two basic laws known as laws of photochemistry. First one is Grothus-Draper's principle or of photochemical activation. Okay, and second one is Stark-Einstein's law. Okay, or Stark-Einstein's law of photochemical equivalence. It is also called as second law of photochemistry. Okay, so we will discuss firstly Grothus-Draper principle. So what is Grothus-Draper principle? According to this principle, all the incident light is not effective in bringing about the chemical change. It is, according to this principle, all the incident light, okay, all the incident light is not effective in bringing about chemical change. So the observed light only leads to the it will bring the chemical change. So not all the incident light, only observed light. So the implication of this statement is only observed light can bring the chemical change. Okay, so Grothus-Draper law says that all the incident light is not effective in bringing about the chemical change. Okay, when light falls on an object, a part of it is reflected, a part of it is transmitted, and the rest is observed. It is only the light observed by the reacting system which is effective in bringing about a chemical change. So some of the light which falls on the object, falls on an object, some of a part of it is reflected, a part of it is transmitted, only some of the incident light is observed. That observed light can bring the chemical change. Okay, that is the statement or implication of the Grothus-Draper principle. So clearly this law doesn't imply that the observed light will necessarily bring about the chemical reaction. So, and another point is there, the law doesn't imply that the observed light, it will certainly bring the chemical change. It will not. The Grothus-Draper law doesn't state that. Okay, the implication, observed light may lead to the chemical change, but all the observed light will cannot bring the chemical change. Okay, so observed light may bring about the following changes which are not chemical in nature. Suppose first one, if in several cases the observed light is converted into the kinetic energy of the observing molecules and only heat effects are produced. For example, potassium permanganate solution strongly absorb light but no chemical change is produced. Okay, even though the observed part of the light may increase the heat of the system, okay, or it may increase the kinetic energy of the system and leading to heating of the system. Okay, so that means the observed light certainly it should not bring chemical change. Okay, it may give some heat effects on the system. And the second one is, if in many cases the observed light may be re-emitted as fluorescence or phosphorescence. Okay, so in this way it is a transmitted one. It simply says that the observed light, some of the observed light, even some of the observed light also re-emitted sorry, fluorescence or phosphorescence. And in many cases the observed light is transferred from one substance to another when both are present together. As a result, some chemical change is observed. Such process is called photosensitization. A substance which initially absorbs light and then transfers it to the reacting substances is known as sensitizer. In the photosynthesis of carbohydrates, chlorophyll acts as photosensitizer. Okay, what are photosensitizer? Chlorophyll acts as photosensitizer. In this reaction, this chlorophyll acts as photosensitizer. What are photosensitizers? It absorbs light. It is activated. It comes to the triplet state and gives energy to the reacting molecules. So these reacting molecules absorb light from this chlorophyll and they are converted into products. Okay, so these are those are the these are so this chlorophyll is called as photosensitizer. It absorbs the light and transfers to the reactants. That light is transferred to the reactant. Such species are called as substances are called as photosensitizers. So what I am trying to say is that some photosensitization reactions are also not directly bringing the chemical chain. Okay, and this Grotthus-Draper law is also called as first law of photochemistry. Okay, and so this is about Grotthus-Draper law. All the incident light is not effective in bringing about chemical change. So only observed light can bring the chemical change. Even in that observed light, some part of the observed light is re-emitted. Some of the re-emitted in the form of fluorescence and phosphorescence, and some part of light is transmitted, and some photosensitization reactions also. There is a possibility of photosensitization. Okay, so these all are the possibilities. Only observed light has the potential to bring the chemical change. That is Grotthus-Draper principle. And the second one is Stark-Einstein's law. So Stark-Einstein's law is considered as the second law of photochemistry. Okay, or the principle of quantum activation. This law states that in a primary photochemical process, each molecule is activated by the absorption of one quantum of radiation. Okay, in a primary photochemical process, each molecule is activated by the absorption of one quantum of radiation. Okay, the absorption of one quantum of energy by a molecule results in the formation of an activated complex. In the first, it is in the primary step. It is not necessary that an activated complex must react, as the activated complex can also cause the reaction of many molecules through a chain mechanism. It may be noted that for a primary process, the number of molecules activated is equal to the number of quanta observed. Thus, the mass of substance containing Avogadro number of molecules observed 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23 quanta of energy. This mole of quanta is called Einstein. So simply this is Einstein energy. Okay, if E is equal to h nu, it is quanta, one quantum of radiation. Okay, right? E is h nu is quantum of energy. It is Einstein of energy. Okay, Einstein. This mole of quanta is called as Einstein. For a primary process, it is supposed that the law applies and the light is actually observed. Okay, so by substituting all the values of n, here n is Avogadro number, that is 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23. Okay, h is Planck's constant, it is 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 27 erg second, okay, or 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second, and nu is equal to c by lambda. Here c is velocity of light or speed of the light, that is 3 into 10 to the power of 10 centimeters per second, okay. Lambda is the wavelength of the light. So substituting all these values, we get the value of E, that is Einstein. E is equal to 2.86 by lambda calories per mole, or it may be E is equal to 11.97 into 10 to the power of 5 by lambda kilojoules per mole, okay. So from this, if we know the value of lambda, we can calculate the value of Einstein energy, okay. We can calculate the value of energy, and energy and wavelength are in inversely proportionality relationship, okay. If shorter the wavelength, greater will be energy absorbed. Einstein is bigger in magnitude for the ultraviolet light absorbed as compared to one where infrared light is observed, okay. Infrared light is having higher wavelengths, lower frequencies. That's why infrared light is somewhat smaller in energy. It is has lesser energy than ultraviolet radiation, okay. This is about what is Stark-Einstein's law. Simply it says that one molecule absorbs one quantum of energy, and one mole of substance absorbs one Einstein energy, okay. One molecule, according to Einstein's law, Stark-Einstein's law, one molecule observes one quanta of energy, and one mole observes one Einstein energy. Quanta of energy is equal to h nu, and Einstein is equal to n h nu, okay. So this is about second law of photochemistry, which says that in a primary photochemical process, each molecule is activated by the absorption of one quantum of radiation, or if molecule is activated by the absorption of one quantum of radiation, one mole of substance is activated by the absorption of one Einstein of radiation, okay. Mole, Einstein, molecule, quanta. And next one is quantum efficiency. What is quantum efficiency? The quantum efficiency of a photochemical process is given as, it is denoted by phi. It is denoted with phi. Phi is equal to number of molecules that react. So molecules. So quanta should come in the denominator, okay. If there is moles, then the Einstein should come in the denominator, okay. So the term efficiency of photochemical process is given as phi is equal to number of molecules that react by number of quanta of radiation absorbed, or phi is equal to number of moles that react by number of Einsteins of radiation absorbed, okay. In terms of moles of product formed, quanta efficiency is defined as number of moles of product formed, number of Einsteins of radiation absorbed, okay. So this is the definition of quantum efficiency, okay. So we have discussed about photochemical reactions and differences between photochemical and thermochemical reactions, and first law of photochemistry, that is Grothes-Draper principle, and second law of photochemistry, that is Stark-Einstein's law, and quantum efficiency. So now we will discuss some solved examples, problems on these concepts. So first one is calculate the value of Einstein for the radiation having wavelength 600 nanometers. Okay, so calculate the value of Einstein. Einstein means n h nu. N means 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23 per mole, and molecules. Okay, h is 6.625 into, that is Planck's constant, 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second, and nu is equal to c by lambda. Nu is equal to c by lambda. C means velocity of light, that is 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meters per second, by lambda. It has given that in the data itself, it has given that 600 nanometers of wavelength. Nano means 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. Okay, so here if we put all these values in this equation, we get the value of Einstein energy. Okay, so calculate the value of Einstein for the radiation having a wavelength 600 nanometers. We know all these values except this lambda, so it has given in the problem itself. So we can calculate the value of E. And the second example is a radiation having wavelength 400 nanometers is completely absorbed by a reaction mixture. Okay, how many moles of radiation are absorbed in 20 minutes if the intensity of radiation is 50 watt? Okay, what he is asking us, how many moles of radiation are absorbed? So we have to calculate the number of moles here. Okay, right. Energy absorbed by the reaction mixture in 1 second is equal to 50 watts. 50 watts means 50 joules per second. Okay, so in 1 second the energy absorbed by the reaction mixture is 50 joules. Okay, so energy absorbed in 20 minutes will be 20 into 60 seconds, so 60,000 joules. So in 1 second energy absorbed is 50 joules. So in 60 seconds, that is in 1 minute, it is 50 into 60. In 20 minutes, it is 50 into 60 into 20, that is 60,000 joules. So we got the value of energy. Okay, that is Einstein energy. So then we can calculate the value of moles, number of moles. Let the number of moles of photons absorbed be n. Then the total energy absorbed is Ne. Okay, so the total energy absorbed is 6000, and Ne, E means Einstein energy. So Einstein energy is nhc by lambda. So lambda is given in the problem data itself. The given data says that lambda is 400 nanometers. So I am simply putting all these values in the above equation. Then I am just rearranging this equation. Okay, I will get, just moving this to left side, I will get the value of n, that is 0.2 mole. Okay, right. And third problem is, a sample of a stone observes monochromatic radiation at the rate of 4.5 into 10 to the power of 20 quanta per second. Okay. What is saying? Quanta. He has given quanta. The number of moles of a stone decomposed in 1 second is 1.35 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Calculate the quantum yield of photolysis of a stone. So if there is moles of a stone, it should be Einstein. Okay, it should be in Einstein. Okay, so to get the number of moles of quanta observed, we have to divide the value of quanta by n. So this is the number of moles of quanta observed. So the number of moles of a stone decomposed is given in the given number of moles of a stone decomposed is equal to 1.35 into 10 to the power of minus 4. So then quantum efficiency is equal to number of moles of a stone decomposed, number of moles of quanta observed. So by putting all these values, we get the value of quantum efficiency. And another solved example is calculate the value of 1 Einstein of radiation whose wavelength is 2000 angstrom. So we know H value, C value, and lambda is given. So by simply putting all these values, we get what is this quantum of energy. Okay, it is a photon energy. So 1 Einstein means Avogadro number of photons, not it is protons, it is photons. So we have to just multiply it with Avogadro number. Then we get the value of Einstein, okay, in kilojoules. So we have discussed introduction of photochemistry and differences between photochemical and thermochemical reactions, and photochemical laws, Grothus-Draper law and Stark-Einstein law and quantum efficiency. Okay, and discussed a few solved problems on these Grothus-Draper law, Stark-Einstein law and quantum efficiency. Okay, thank you.